If your life keeps repeating the same frustrations, the same outcomes, the same invisible ceiling, it's not luck, it's your standard. The world doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you tolerate. And what you tolerate is determined by the standard you set. Why does this matter? Because when you raise your standard, you raise the quality of your thoughts, your actions, and the people you allow near you. Change your standard and you'll change everything tied to it. In just a few moments, I will teach you how changing your standards can completely reshape your results, relationships, and reality. You rise or fall to the level you accept. You do not get what you wish for you. Get what you tolerate. The life you have now is not the product of fate. It is the reflection of your standards, what you demand of yourself, what you refuse to accept. If a man accepts being average, then average is exactly what he will receive. Not because he is destined for less, but because he stopped reaching for more. What is a standard? It is the line in the sand. It is the point at which you say, this is who I am, and this is what I stand for. When you raise it, your life begins to reflect that decision. But if you lower it, if you make excuses for poor behavior, delay your goals, or surround yourself with lesser influence, your life will follow in that direction. How do you begin to raise your standards? It starts with the smallest things. The time you wake up, the order of your room, the integrity of your word. Do you follow through? Do you clean up after yourself? You cannot command a great army if you cannot command your morning. Imagine this: a man wakes at dawn, irons his shirt with care, and writes 3 things he will conquer today, not because someone told him to, but because that is his code, that is his standard. How differently do you think he walks into the world than the man who rises late, stumbles into the day unprepared, and reacts instead of leads? Ask yourself, what have you been tolerating that must no longer be allowed? Who around you reinforces weakness instead of strength? What would happen if you declared, no more excuses? This is my new standard. Your life bends in the direction of your standards. Bend them upward. Everything else will rise with it. Standards define identity, not motivation. A man who waits for motivation will be governed by the weather of his emotions. But a man who lives by standard, he is a storm unto himself. Many people believe that success requires inspiration, but that belief is a trick. It implies that you must feel good to do good. Yet the most accomplished lives were not built by comfort. They were forged by resolve, by identity, by the quiet declaration, this is who I am. Even when I dawn, feel like it. You must decide what kind of man you are, not just in public, but in private. Are you the one who pushes forward when no one is watching? Are you the one who acts with discipline when no reward is promised? How do you build the identity? Through repetition, through keeping small promises, through holding your spine straight when it's easier to bend. Begin with one standard: I do not quit, or I keep my word, or even I walk into every room with purpose. Let that standard become your armor. Now picture this: a carpenter begins each morning sharpening his tools, not because he is told to, but because he knows dull blades build crooked houses. That carpenter builds a legacy, not by chance, but by code. What code are you living by? Or are you drifting? If I followed you for a week, what would your actions say about you? Raise the code. Make it your signature. Let no man mistake what you stand for. Change the floor, not the ceiling. Most men focus on raising their goals, the ceiling of what they hope to achieve. But what if the secret was not in raising the top, but raising the bottom? What is the lowest behavior you will accept from yourself? That is the true measure of who you are becoming. You do not rise to your goals, you fall to your rituals. Excellence is not born from ambition alone. It is born from standards so high that even your worst days outmatch another's best. Success belongs to the man whose worst day is still productive, still aligned, still filled with purpose. To elevate your life, raise your floor. Improve what your bad day looks like. Instead of collapsing into laziness, could your lowest point be reflection, writing, preparation? Could your fallback be studying instead of sleeping, speaking with grace instead of anger? Picture a soldier on the field who still polishes his boots, even after marching all day. He does not say, I am too tired. He says, this is the standard. What does your worst day look like? If you raise your floor by 20%, your life may change by 200%. Refuse to collapse. Refuse to spiral. Let even your stumbles carry strength, for your floor is the silent architect of your destiny. Standards attract allies and repel the weak. A man of standards becomes a beacon, not because he tries to shine, but because he refuses to dim. He does not clamor for attention or approval. Instead, he stands firm in who he is and what he expects from himself first, and then from others. The world around him may not always appreciate it. In fact, some will mock him, misunderstand him, or even try to break him. But those who carry strength in their bones and truth in their hearts, they will recognize him. For like finds like. You see, when you raise your standards, you send out a silent signal. This is who I am, and this is what I allow. The weak may call it arrogance, but the wise call it alignment. You will not attract everyone, nor should you. You will attract those who are meant to walk with you, not drag you. The man of standards does not chase validation. He builds value. His life becomes a monument not to popularity, but to principle. And principles outlast trends. They are not moved by the mood of the crowd. They are anchored deep within. When you live this way, you do not need to demand loyalty. You embody it. You do not beg for respect. You command it without saying a word. This transformation begins with refusal. Refusing to laugh at mediocrity. Refusing to excuse bad company. Refusing to remain silent when truth must be spoken. A man who holds his tongue in the face of compromise is not peaceful, he is passive. And passivity is a poison. To live with standards is to live with clarity. You speak what you mean. You mean what you say. Your yes carries weight. Your no creates boundaries. Even if it costs you comfort, it earns you strength. And strength, unlike comfort, builds kingdoms. Imagine a ship's captain. Would he allow men who disregard order to board his vessel? Would he tolerate those who disrespect the code, delay the mission, or jeopardize the journey? The sea is not merciful to the careless. Neither is life. A man of standards chooses his crew not by popularity, but by principle. Look around. Who in your circle is lifting you higher? Who is dragging you backward? What behaviors have you been tolerating that chip away at your strength? What if your standards became the filter through which you rebuilt your world? Here lies the deeper truth. You are not here to blend in. You are here to rise. And when you rise, others see a path they did to know was possible. Your courage gives them courage. Your standards give them something to reach for. In becoming who you are called to be, you become more than a man. You become a mirror showing others what they could be, if only they chose to live by code, not comfort. Do not lower the bar to make others comfortable. Raise it and see who grows to meet it. That is how leaders are born. That is how legacies are built. Pain is temporary. Standards are eternal. Comfort is fleeting. It disappears with the next wind like dust on an open road. But the man who sets a standard and lives by it, he builds something the seasons cannot destroy. He is not tossed by emotions, trends, or trials. He is anchored in choice, in discipline, in quiet defiance of all that seeks to make him soft. Most men wait for pain before they prepare. They wait for difficulty before they define who they are. And when challenge finally comes, they shrink, they scramble, they make excuses, but not the man who has chosen in advance, not the man who has said, here is what I stand for. And no matter what happens, I do not move. Such a man expects the test. He welcomes it not because he is reckless, but because he is ready. You must understand this. Strength is not built in the storm. It is revealed there. The man who survives the tempest is the one who trained during the calm. Pain will come. Delay will tempt. Doubt will whisper. They always do. But these things cannot move the man who has already decided. His standard is not up for negotiation. He does not ask, should I keep going? When the path grows hard, he already answered that question long ago. You must set your standard when the winds are still, when no one is watching, when quitting would be easy, but you choose to continue anyway. That is the moment where legends are made. The lost man waits until pressure comes, then folds. The legendary man prepares in advance, then conquers. Picture the blacksmith. He does not craft weapons in silence and safety. He works in fire. Sparks fly. Iron resists. The hammer is heavy, but he does not complain. He does not stop. Why? Because the blade is worth it. The outcome is greater than the obstacle. What discomfort have you been avoiding? What dream have you delayed because it would require too much of you? Be honest. You know what it is. That one thing you keep pushing off. That one thing you say, one day. And what if you decided today, once and for all, no matter what, I do not break? That decision, that standard becomes your strength. It becomes your vault, your fireproof chamber of resolve. And in it you store your greatness, your integrity, your grit. Guard it well. Feed it daily. And never let the ease of the world steal what only endurance can build. Comfort fades. Comfort lies. It tells you to rest when you should rise. It tells you you are safe when you're slipping. But character echoes through time. Long after your name is forgotten by the masses, the fruit of your standards will live on in the lives you touched, the work you did, the legacy you carved with blistered hands and unwavering focus. So I ask you, what are you building, comfort or character? Because you cannot have both. Standards do not limit your life, they lift it. They separate you from the ordinary. They give you a reason to rise when you could lay down. Set yours high. Set them now. And when the storm comes, and it will, you will not flinch. You will act, because you have already decided, and that, my friend, is the mark of a man who conquers the seasons. Your standards must be public, not private. It is easy to say what you believe when no one can hear you. But true standards do not whisper in the dark, they proclaim themselves in the light. A man of real conviction does not keep his principles hidden in journals or silent prayers. No, he walks them out. He wears them like armor. He lets them speak louder than any argument, clearer than any boast. To build silently but live loudly is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is the integrity of a man whose actions echo his values. And in that echo, others hear the truth of who he is. There is no confusion, no misreading. He does not have to convince people of his strength. His consistency does that for him. A hidden standard cannot protect you. It cannot shield you when the winds rise. It cannot guide your steps in chaos. And it certainly cannot inspire others to follow. If you keep your values locked away, they will not grow. Worse, you will be tempted to compromise them when life gets heavy, when temptation knocks, when the pressure mounts. But when your standard is declared, when it becomes visible, audible, observable, you are bound to it. And that bond becomes your strength. How do you bring your standards into the light? You live them. You don't just speak them, you declare them through conduct, through discipline, through sacrifice, through showing up when it is hard, holding the line when it is lonely, and staying the course when quitting would feel easier. If you believe in discipline, let it be seen in the way you rise each day, in the way you dress, in the way you honor your commitments. If you value excellence, let it be evident in every detail, how you finish a task, how you treat others, how you prepare, how you recover, especially when no one is watching, especially when no one is clapping. Imagine a teacher walking into a classroom. His shoes are polished, his shirt is crisp, his back is straight. His presence quiets the room not because he barks commands, but because his very being commands attention. The students do not rise because they fear him, they rise because they respect the standard he has become. His code walks ahead of him, and by doing so, it lifts the entire room. That is what your standard must do. It must walk before you. It must introduce you before you speak. It must remain when you leave the room. Not because you shouted it, but because you've lived it. Ask yourself, what would change if those around you knew your standard so clearly, so visibly, that they began to rise to meet it? How would your workplace shift? Your family? Your friendships? What would happen if your integrity was not an idea, but a presence felt known, undeniable? A hidden principle dies in the dark. It fades. It weakens. But a public one lived out with dignity and consistency lives on. It outlasts the applause. It influences without effort. It builds legacies, not just lives. Do not be content with private beliefs. Let your life preach your philosophy. Let your habits be your message, because the man who lives his code out loud does more than change himself. He transforms the world around him. Standards must be decided in advance. When the moment of trial comes, it is too late to build your character. It is too late to prepare your values. It is too late to decide what kind of man you are. That moment must have already been chosen in silence, in solitude, in the still hours when no one was watching. The man who tries to think his way through temptation will falter, but the man who has already decided how he will act, he will not. This is the power of predetermined decision. It removes the need for debate. It removes the fog of hesitation. It removes the opening for doubt to creep in. When your actions are already decided, your path is already drawn. There is no gray. There is no internal courtroom filled with arguments and justifications. There is only the clarity of commitment. You must decide now how you will respond when offended. Will you strike back, or will you stand firm in composure? You must decide now how you will behave when tired. Will you cut corners, or will you complete the work with honor? You must decide now what you will never tolerate from yourself, from others, from life. If you do not set your rules, the world will set them for you. And the world does not reward the undecided. It consumes them. It shapes them into what is easy, not what is right. It fills the vacuum of indecision with chaos and compromise. Predetermined decisions are not about control. They are about freedom. The man who already knows what he will do is not bound by impulse. He is not controlled by his circumstances. He walks into every room with the authority of a judge who has already written the law. Picture that judge. Each day, he enters the courtroom not to deliberate what justice might be, but to execute what justice is. His laws are written. His standard is established. There is no room for guesswork. Because the law is clear, justice is swift. Because the standard is firm, order prevails. Where in your life have you left decisions open? Where are you still negotiating with your lower self? Where do you say, I'll decide in the moment, knowing full well that the moment is when you are weakest? The man who decides ahead of time lives in strength. He walks taller. He speaks with certainty. He is trusted because he has first learned to trust himself. But the man who waits lives in weakness. He reacts. He apologizes. He builds nothing lasting because he is always pulled by whatever wind blows. And every day you delay your standards is a day you borrow your life from circumstance. You become a man on loan to the moment, not a master of it. But that can end. It ends with one act, decision. Decide now. Decide who you are. Decide what you do not tolerate. Decide what you rise for and what you never bow to. And once that decision is made, never borrow again. Because a man of predetermined principles cannot be bought, broken, or bullied. He is anchored. He is unshakable. And in a world that bends, he stands. Consistency builds power. It is not what you do once that shapes you. It is what you repeat, what you return to, day after day, decision after decision. Greatness is not found in rare flashes of brilliance, but in the slow, quiet, determined repetition of discipline. The man who becomes something extraordinary did not get there by accident. He chose it, not once, but 1,000 times. The oak tree does not rise overnight. It grows inch by inch, season by season, pushing roots deeper even when the eye sees nothing. The blacksmith does not forge a blade in one swing. He strikes and strikes, folding steel, applying heat, refining edge. And your life will not transform by a single moment of inspiration. You must practice. You must persist. You must do the right thing long enough for it to become who you are. This is the overlooked truth. Consistency is the hidden engine behind all success. It is not glamorous. It is not loud, but it moves mountains. Consistency builds habit. Habit builds confidence. Confidence builds identity. And once your identity changes, your future cannot help but follow. A man who shows up every day becomes unbeatable, not because he is the most gifted, but because he is there when others quit. He does not need motivation. He has momentum. His actions no longer require force. They flow from who he has become. Picture the farmer. He rises each morning and waters the soil, day after day, week after week. No sprouts, no praise. His neighbors laugh. They say he's wasting effort. But the farmer is not working for applause. He is working for harvest. And in due season, his field will bloom while theirs stand barren. The same is true for you. Are your habits worthy of the future you desire? What are you rehearsing each day, excellence or excuses? What is your routine building resilience or regret? Excellence is not a moment. It is a pattern. It is forged when you do the right thing without needing results to cheer you on. It is born in silence, tested in fatigue, and proven in time. If you wait to feel like it, you will never master it. If you wait for conditions to be perfect, you will never begin. Set a standard you can repeat, something clear, something small enough to begin, yet strong enough to grow. Then repeat it until your body does it without asking, until your mind stops resisting, until your environment adjusts to follow your example. Remember this: consistency does not merely change what you do, it changes what you believe about yourself. Each repetition is a vote for the man you are becoming. Each act of discipline is a brick laid in the foundation of your character. You do not need to be perfect. You need to be persistent. You do not need to know the outcome. You need to know the process. And once the process becomes your way of life, the outcome will take care of itself. So begin again today. Begin small. Begin quiet. But begin, then do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. Because the man who remains when others disappear, the one who shows up when no one is watching, is the one who earns what others only dream of. That is the power of consistency, and it is available to you right now. Standards turn vision into reality. A dream without a standard is fantasy. It may excite the imagination, stir the soul, and bring warmth to the heart. But without a code to guide it, it drifts like a ship without a rudder. A dream anchored to a standard, however, a code of conduct, a rule of life, becomes a plan. And when that plan is followed by consistent discipline, the impossible becomes possible. The vision becomes tangible. The dream becomes real. It is not enough to desire success. Desire is only the spark. You must build success with your bare hands, brick by brick, habit by habit, day by day. And the material you build with is your standards. Standards shape how you speak, how you work, how you rise from failure. Vision paints the picture, yes, but it is your standard that holds the brush steady. Without it, your strokes wander. surrender. Your momentum fades. Without standards, ambition withers under pressure. It dissolves under fatigue. It becomes a whisper instead of a roar. But when a man has a standard, the distant becomes reachable. The overwhelming becomes orderly. The mountain becomes a path, because he is not relying on emotion. He is relying on a code. A clear vision tied to a non-negotiable standard becomes a force of nature. You cannot stop a man who has both direction and discipline. His feet are guided by purpose and his hands are trained by repetition. So decide what kind of future you want. Be specific. Be bold. And then ask yourself, what kind of man builds that future? What kind of character does he carry? What kind of habits does he honor each morning? What kind of attitude does he bring to failure? What kind of integrity does he guard when no one is watching? Because you will never outbuild your character. Your dreams rise only as high as your standards. No further, no faster. The foundation must be strong. Picture the architect. He sketches the outline of a cathedral, vaulted ceilings, towering spires, walls of stone and light. The drawing inspires, but inspiration alone cannot build it. Without measurements, without proportion, without rules, his vision remains ink on paper. But when he draws with standard height, width, depth, his vision becomes structure. His idea becomes something generations will walk through. That is what standards do. They turn dreams into buildings. They make the abstract concrete. They shape energy into architecture. So where have you been hoping instead of building? What parts of your dream have been left to emotion instead of execution? Where are you drifting when you could be directing? The scaffolding of your future is built with daily actions, with non-negotiables, with unwavering codes. And once you set them, once you say, "This is what I demand from myself," the world begins to conform to your direction. You do not need a new dream, you need a higher standard, one that lifts your days, sharpens your mind, and strengthens your heart. Raise it, write it, live it, and your dream will no longer feel distant. It will stand before you solid, measurable, earned, because the man who lives by a standard does not wait for the future. He builds it. Your standard is your silent sermon. What you say may be heard once, but how you live, that is watched forever. Your standards preach louder than your words. In a world overflowing with noise, it is not the voice that commands attention, it is the example. An example, when consistent and principled, becomes a legacy. People do not follow explanation. They follow demonstration. They do not change because of lectures. They change because of leadership. If you want to influence others, don't raise your volume, raise your conduct. If you want to inspire, let your life do the talking. Let your daily decisions become the loudest message in the room. Words are important, but character is undeniable. Anyone can say the right thing, but it takes a rare kind of man to be the right thing. You must become the message you want the world to hear. Let your discipline teach. Let your effort explain. Let your grace convict. Your standard lived consistently becomes the sermon no one forgets. You do not need a title to lead. You do not need a stage to influence. You do not need a spotlight to be seen. You need a standard. And when you live by it with quiet consistency, others will notice. People notice who shows up early, who works with care, who listens without judgment, who acts with strength in silence. Think of the stonecutter. He labors alone day after day in the corner of the quarry. No crowd gathers, no applause echoes, but still he hammers, still he shapes, still he endures. He does not need to shout. He does not need to boast. His chisel sings the song of greatness. And those who pass by, they pause. They feel the weight of his discipline. They hear the melody of his mastery. That is how you lead, not by force, but by fidelity, not by persuasion, but by principle. You do not chase attention, you draw it. You do not demand respect, you embody it. Ask yourself, what sermon does your life preach? What message do your habits declare? What lesson are you teaching with your time, your tone, your consistency? If your life was the only message someone ever heard, what would they walk away believing? If you want to change the world, you must begin where all great change begins, within. Raise your standard, live it in secret, uphold it in silence. Practice it when no one thanks you. Defend it when no one stands beside you. And over time, your life will become the lighthouse others navigate by. Because the loudest voice in any room is not always the one making the speech. It is often the one who lives their standards so deeply, so visibly, so undeniably that others feel their integrity without a word being spoken. The world does not need more talk. It needs more truth lived, more courage demonstrated, more grace practiced, and more men who choose to lead not by declaring their standard but by becoming it. So let your conduct rise. Let your life speak. let your discipline preach, and let your standard lead the way. A higher standard demands higher preparation. You cannot expect the rewards of excellence while living by the habits of mediocrity. Life does not hand out greatness to the wishful. It delivers it to the prepared. The man who raises his standard must also raise his readiness, for it is not at the moment of opportunity that you become ready. It is long before, in the hidden hours of practice, that greatness is forged. When you demand more from life, life demands more from you. The man who sets a standard of excellence cannot indulge in the comforts of the average. He cannot drift with the masses and expect to arrive at uncommon destinations. He must do what others delay, read what others ignore, train while others rest. Greatness requires rehearsal, and rehearsal is not glamorous. Preparation does not shout. It whispers in the quiet. It happens in solitude. It offers no immediate reward, no guaranteed result. But it is what separates the man who talks about the future from the one who shapes it. A high standard demands high effort. There is no shortcut, no exception. To become a man worthy of greatness, you must live like it before you see it. You must act as if the opportunity is already on its way, because one day it will be. And when it comes, you will either rise with readiness or shrink with regret. Imagine a violinist tucked away in a modest room. Day after day he practices. No crowd, no camera. Only the strings, the bow, and his discipline. His fingers bleed, his mind tires. Yet he returns, again and again. And then, one night, the stage is his, and he does not freeze. He flows, because he paid his price in private. Preparation is the hidden down payment on visible success. It is the training done in obscurity that wins the war in the light. It is the standard honored when no one is watching that allows a man to lead when all eyes are on him. So ask yourself, where are you unprepared for the life you say you want? What area have you left to chance, to luck, to future you? What would change if you trained every day like the opportunity was already en route? Not as a question of if, but a certainty of when. Excellence does not wait for you to catch up. It rewards those who stayed ahead. It honors those who practiced in faith, those who believed so deeply in their calling that they prepared for it even before it arrived. Do not wait for the call. Do not wait for the invitation, the applause, the permission. Prepare as if the call is coming. Prepare as if the door will open tomorrow. Prepare as if your future self is depending on your present discipline, because he is. One day the curtain will rise. The door will swing wide. The opportunity will arrive, and when it does, there will be no time to learn, to practice, to prepare. You will either step forward in confidence or watch it pass in silence. Only the prepared shall rise. Only the man who honored the hidden hours will carry the weight of greatness. So begin today, train with purpose, read with focus, work with intention, set your standard high, and then become the man who is worthy of it. Because success is never an accident. It is the reward of relentless preparation meeting the moment of opportunity. Be ready, stay ready, and rise. Raising standards requires letting go. Not everything can go with you, not every habit, not every belief, not every relationship. When you decide to raise your standard, you must also decide what must be left behind, because elevation demands elimination. You cannot rise while gripping the weight of your past. Old habits, old excuses, old alliances that pull you backward under the illusion of comfort. These things are familiar, but they are not faithful to your future. The man who climbs a mountain does not pack for the valley. He does not carry what once made sense in a different season. He must travel light. He must choose comfort or summit, and that choice is painful. You may feel the sting of letting go. You may grieve what once served you, what once made you feel safe. That is natural. But the pain of growth is always less than the regret of staying small. Better to hurt now for a future you believe in than to ache forever over a future you forfeited. You must inspect your life like a shipwright checks a vessel before the voyage. What routines are weighing you down? What daily actions steal your time, blur your clarity, strip your self-respect? What friendships keep you comfortable but not committed to your calling? Who speaks to the weakest part of you instead of your highest possibility? This is the hard truth. You cannot take everything with you. And if you try, the climb will break you. There is a cost to change, but there is a greater cost to staying the same. Picture a man boarding a ship to a new world. The captain looks him in the eye and says, "Only what is necessary." And the man hesitates. He looks at the trinkets of his past, the tools that once worked, the keepsakes of an older life. But he knows The land ahead demands a different version of him, and so he steps forward with less baggage, but more resolve. Ask yourself, what must you now release in order to rise? What patterns, possessions, or people are chaining you to a version of yourself that no longer fits? Growth is not just about adding, it is about subtracting. Before your life multiplies, it must simplify. Before your future expands, your present must be pruned. Raise your standard, then remove what does not meet it. Speak it, live it, and let it cleanse your environment. Because your standard is not just what you accept, it is also what you reject. This is not cruelty, this is clarity. You are not abandoning your past. You are honoring your future. You are making space for the man you are becoming. And that requires courage. Courage to say, this no longer serves me. Courage to say, this no longer reflects me. Courage to say, I love you, but I must grow. Because your destiny cannot be reached in the company of compromise. It is not found in old cycles. It is found in new strength. So look around, look within, choose what stays, choose what goes, and then move. Move lighter, move faster, move with vision. Let your journey be your testimony, not of what you carried, but of what you were willing to let go. Because the man who climbs is not the one with the most, but the one with the least necessary. You do not grow by keeping, you grow by releasing. And when you do, you make room for greatness to find you on the path. Let go and rise. Your standards are reflected in your environment. The space you inhabit reflects the standard you set. It is not merely background. It is declaration. A man who lives in order, clarity, and beauty is not boasting. He is revealing what he believes about himself. He is saying without words, I matter, my work matters, my life matters. But the man who accepts clutter, chaos, and decay, even in silence, is declaring just as loudly, this is what I deserve, this is what I will allow. Your environment is not passive, it is active. It trains you, it speaks to you, it either sharpens you or dulls you. You must build a temple around your habits, a sanctuary around your mission. You must walk into your space and feel it call you upward, not drag you downward. If your environment makes you lazy, you will become lazy. If it inspires you to rise, you will rise without resistance. Look around. What do you see? Do your surroundings lift your vision or blur it? Are your tools within reach? Is your desk clear or crowded? Is your schedule structured or scattered? Your space is not a storage unit, it is a mirror, and it reflects what you tolerate. If your environment weakens you, change it. Not tomorrow, now. Remove what is broken, clean what is stained, throw out what insults your future. Let go of what no longer belongs in the life you are building. Surround yourself with tools, not distractions, with symbols of inspiration, not cluttered noise. What you see every day begins to shape what you believe. And what you believe shapes what you become. You are not merely living in a room, you are living in a reflection. Your desk, your clothes, your wall, your schedule, your digital space, all of it speaks. All of it sends a message back to you. This is your standard. Do they shout excellence or whisper apathy? Do they pull you forward or weigh you down? If someone walked into your life unannounced and judged your seriousness by your space, what would they conclude? Imagine walking into the study of a great statesman. The room is still, books in place, notes prepared, chair aligned with purpose. No distraction, no chaos, only the quiet order of a man who takes himself seriously. He has not said a word, but already you trust him. Already you know, this man is going somewhere. What does your space say about your seriousness? Would a visitor believe you are headed for greatness? Would they sense intention, vision, respect? Or would they see the signs of drift, disorder, delay? Your environment is not everything, but it is the beginning. It sets the tone. It becomes the training ground. And soon, what surrounds you begins to shape what flows through you. If you want to write clearly, sit in clarity. If you want to think deeply, sit in order. If you want to act boldly, surround yourself with bold reminders. Raise your environment to match your future. Let every wall, every object, every corner bear witness to your standard. Walk into your space and feel it whisper, rise. Because what you allow around you does not stay around you. It enters you. It forms you. And it either pushes you forward or holds you back. Choose today what stays, what goes. What must be elevated? Make your space a sermon, a signal, a standard, and watch what changes inside you the moment you do. Standards are the foundation of self-respect. A man cannot respect himself if he breaks his own word. Every time you violate your standard, every time you say one thing and do another, you chip away at your inner command. Slowly, quietly, the voice within you grows weak, and with it, your power to lead, to act, to believe. Self-respect is not built on compliments or applause. It is built on consistency. It is not given by the world. It is earned in silence. It is forged in the decisions you make when no one else is looking. And it is one of the rarest forms of wealth a man can carry. To walk into a room with quiet confidence. To hold your head high not because you are better than anyone, but because you are living by a code you refuse to abandon. To look in the mirror and see not perfection, but alignment that is the reward of a standard kept. When you begin to value your own standard, others will too. But the opposite is also true. If you bend to pressure, if you abandon your line when challenged, if you choose ease over integrity, your influence dissolves. People may still hear your words, but they will no longer believe them. They may still smile in your presence, but they will not follow you. A man without self-respect becomes a man without authority, first with himself, then with the world. Picture a builder laying stone for a great structure. No audience, no fanfare, just stone, mortar, and care. He sets each piece with precision. He measures twice. He aligns every edge, not because someone is watching, but because he is. And decades later, the structure still stands, not because others praised it, but because he refused to cut corners. That same integrity must live in you. Every choice you make is a stone in the foundation of your life. Weak choices build weak structures, but strong choices held to your standard build something that endures. Where have you betrayed your own standard? Where have you made promises to yourself and not kept them? Where have you said, I will change, but continued in the same cycle? This is not a place for shame. It is a place for clarity, for confrontation, because you cannot fix what you want neat face. And you cannot rise if your inner foundation is cracked. What would it feel like to reclaim your standard fully, without apology? What would it feel like to say, this is who I am, this is what I expect, and this is what I do regardless of praise, pressure, or convenience? You do not need anyone else to approve of your path, but you must earn your own respect. You must be able to trust your own voice again. And that trust is earned in action, in repetition, in the invisible victories that no one claps for, but that build strength inside. Hold your line. Rebuild it where it has cracked. Restore what you once honored, because your future will only rise to the level of your integrity. And the man who refuses to break his own standard becomes the one others trust to lead, to build, to rise, not by force, not by flash, but by the undeniable power of a life lived in alignment. Earn your own respect, then guard it like treasure, because once you have it, no one can take it away. You teach others how to treat you by what you accept. People learn how to treat you by how you treat yourself. You are the first example of how the world should engage with you. If you accept disrespect, they assume it is permitted. If you tolerate lateness, they believe your time holds no value. If you ignore your own values, they will too. People respond not to what you ask for, but to what you allow. Your standard is not just a shield for yourself, it is a guide for others. It is your silent instruction to the world. This is how I expect to be treated. This is what I consider acceptable. When you live with clarity, others know where you stand. When you speak with conviction, others take your words seriously. When you uphold your own boundary without flinching, you teach others to rise. And when you lead your life with discipline and honor, you show others the kind of person you expect in return. This is not about arrogance, it is about honor. The man who values himself does not need to demand respect. He invites it by example. His life becomes a model of integrity, and others either adjust to meet him or quietly step aside. Imagine a craftsman who inspects every detail before delivery. His work is clean, aligned, precise. He does not ship products with flaws. He does not allow shortcuts. He does to yell about quality, he lives it. And so, over time, his clients bring him their best work. They speak with care. They match his standard. Why? Because he taught them how.
You do the same.
In your friendships, in your workplace, in your home, you are always teaching. Not through lectures, but through living. Not through expectations, but through example. Ask yourself, where in your life have you allowed others to lower the tone? Where have you swallowed discomfort to keep the peace? Where have you silenced your standard because it made others uncomfortable? And what would change if your very presence demanded excellence not through force, but through example? What would shift if others knew that with you only respect, clarity, and purpose would be tolerated? People often try to change others through words, but the world listens more to your standards than your speeches. A firm boundary speaks louder than 1,000 reminders. A man who respects his own time does to have to argue about lateness. A man who honors his values does to have to beg for others to do the same. He simply lives them and lets the world adjust. This is how leaders are born. This is how culture is shaped. Not by volume, not by protest, but by a single individual who holds the line with unwavering consistency. So look at your life What line have you let blur? What standard have you lowered to avoid conflict? What self-respect have you traded for acceptance? Now raise it, speak it if needed, but above all, live it, and never lower it for anyone who refuses to rise. Because the man who honors himself teaches the world to do the same. Not through demands, but through discipline. Not through ego, but through quiet power. Do not ask for more respect. Command it, not through control, but by becoming the kind of man whose life leaves no other choice. Let your standards speak. Let your actions teach. Let your presence lift. And the world will listen. Standards are set in solitude, proven in pressure. The quiet moments reveal your intent, but the storm reveals your standard. In solitude, it is easy to whisper promises to yourself. I will be disciplined. I will be strong. I will not fold. The air is still. The mind is clear. There is no conflict to contend with, but pressure, real pressure, uncovers the truth. It shows whether your foundation is made of stone or sand. Words are easy in peace. Convictions are tested in chaos. The man who builds himself only in moments of calm is unprepared for war. But the man who uses solitude to fortify his mind, to sharpen his values, to cement his standard, that man walks into hardship ready. Not because he is fearless, but because he has trained for the moment others dread. You must use solitude to build what pressure will soon reveal. Silence is your workshop. It is where you forge your values, refine your decisions, clarify your boundaries. The man who meditates on who he is and who he refuses to become is the man who gains armor before the arrows fly. But the man who waits for the battle to decide who he is has already lost. The fire does not create the sword. It reveals whether the sword was tempered correctly. If your identity is not fixed before the storm will fix it for you. Take time alone, uninterrupted, unfiltered, without distraction. Sit with your thoughts, confront the uncomfortable, write your code, speak it aloud, decide who you are, decide what you will not do, decide what you will always do. Because when the moment comes, when the test arrives, you will not have time to decide. You will only have time to act. Imagine a general who studies the terrain long before the army marches. He walks the land in silence. He maps every hill, every valley, every weakness. He imagines the attack before it arrives. And when the enemy comes, he is not surprised. He is not scrambling. He is ready, not because he is lucky, but because he was silent before he was strong. The same is true for you. Are you building in quiet, or are you waiting for chaos? Are you preparing, or are you gambling? Are you setting your standard in stillness, or are you hoping to remember it in crisis? Do not let the crowd define your code. Do not wait until the pressure mounts to find your strength. Set your standard in solitude. Carve it deep, then let the furnace prove it, because hardship is not the time to question who you are. It is the time to demonstrate who you already decided to be. Let silence be your teacher. Let discipline be your friend. Let solitude become the sacred place where your identity is not invented but uncovered. And when the storm comes, when the voices rise, when the world shakes, stand firm. Not because you are unshaken, but because you were forged for this. Remember this: a man who prepares in quiet walks with power in chaos. A man who waits for chaos to shape him is not a man, he is a leaf in the wind. So choose the rock. Choose the silence. Choose to set your standard before the storm. And when the test comes, pass it without fear, because you are not reacting. You are revealing, and the world will see what was built when no one else was watching. Standards build legacy beyond a lifetime. You do not live for yourself alone. Your choices echo beyond your years. Your habits shape more than your days. You live for the echo of your name, the trail of your example, the weight of your decisions upon the lives that follow. Whether you acknowledge it or not, your life sends ripples into the future. A man who raises his standard does not just elevate his own story. He alters the stories of those around him and those yet to come. His courage becomes another man's blueprint. His self-discipline becomes another man's conviction. His boundaries become another man's mirror. Children watch. Students listen, workers observe, strangers absorb. They mimic your energy, your language, your standard, and over time, they inherit the quality of what you tolerate. Legacy is not built on fame. It is not measured in applause or wealth or titles. Legacy is built on principles lived and repeated so often, they become the unseen architecture of families, communities, culture. Legacy is built when you choose what is right over what is easy. Not once, but again and again, until your name stands for something even when your voice is no longer heard. Ask yourself, what habits are you passing down without knowing? What examples are you setting when no one seems to be watching? Because someone always is. And what silent message does your life deliver to those behind you? Is it a message of compromise or conviction, of comfort or character, of delay or discipline? You may not see the full reach of your influence, but that does not mean it is small. Influence is often invisible, but it is never insignificant. Imagine a craftsman whose tools are passed down through generations. Each chisel worn by discipline, each hammer weighted by precision. He is long gone, but his signature remains in the wood. His process becomes tradition. His standard becomes legend. Not because he sought legacy, but because he sought excellence. That can be you. Your name can mean something more than biology. It can mean purpose, order, honor, strength. But only if you build that meaning brick by brick, day by day, choice by choice. You don't have to speak loudly to create legacy. You have to live clearly. You have to lead yourself with such consistency that others instinctively rise in your presence. You must be the reference point for what is possible, because legacy is not about being remembered. It is about being repeated. It is about what others choose to carry forward because they saw it lived in you. So raise your standard and raise generations. Be the example you never had. Be the voice of wisdom in a world of noise. Be the man whose life becomes a compass for others to follow. Do not chase influence. Earn it. Do not seek fame. Build meaning. Live in such a way that your discipline outlives your days, that your principles find breath in the lives of others. And one day, long after you are gone, when your name is spoken, let it not just be remembered, let it be revered. Let your life say, here walked a man who stood for something, and because he stood, others learned to rise. That is legacy. That is power. That is the reward of a standard kept. Build it now, and let time carry it forward. Your standards reveal what you worship. Every man worships something. The question is not if, but what. Worship is not limited to temples or hymns. It lives in the unseen choices, the sacred routines, the silent devotions of our lives. And your standard is the altar. Whatever you prioritize, protect, and practice is what you ultimately revere. If you prioritize ease, you worship comfort. If you excuse dishonor, you worship approval. If you sacrifice your time for pleasure but not purpose, your loyalty has already been declared. But if you rise at dawn, write with diligence, speak with honesty, then you worship truth. You serve something greater than convenience. You honor the eternal. What you protect with your time, your energy, and your attention, that is your real devotion. That is your daily liturgy. Your standards reveal your God, whether it is excellence or apathy, self-mastery or self-indulgence. There is no need to shout your beliefs. Your routines already declare them. The man who guards his time does not need to explain it. His calendar speaks for him. The man who sharpens his mind, disciplines his body, and holds his tongue is preaching with his presence. He does not perform, he honors, quietly, consistently. Imagine a monk who sweeps the floor each morning, not because anyone watches, not because he is told to, but because the act is holy, because every stroke of the broom is a prayer. Every moment of silence, a declaration. His day is not divided between sacred and secular. It is all worship. Every movement is devotion. Every task a sermon. Your life is the same. Every act tells a story of what you believe. Your posture when no one sees. Your effort when there's no reward. Your integrity when the pressure mounts. These are your rituals. And they reveal what you truly hold sacred. Ask yourself, what do your habits bow to? What does your life exalt? Do your actions lift up truth, honor, and purpose? Or do they kneel before comfort, comparison, and compromise? Because worship is not just about lifting hands, it is about lifting standards. It is about treating the ordinary with extraordinary intention. It is about choosing what is right, even when it is hard, over what is easy, even when it is popular. If you want to live with honor, start by setting a standard worthy of reverence. A standard that aligns your soul, your body, your voice. A standard that makes your life an altar and your actions a form of prayer. And once set, protect it, defend it, return to it, not out of fear, but out of devotion. Because when a man chooses to live this way with reverence for time, for truth, for principle, he becomes more than a man. He becomes a presence, a living message, a quiet force that calls others to rise. So build your standard, make it your temple, and let every word, every hour, every deed be worship, not for applause, not for recognition, but for the sacred call to live with meaning. Because the world does not need more noise, it needs more men whose lives whisper of something holy. Let your standard be that whisper. Let it echo in how you work. Let it resound in how you live. And in doing so, let your life become your truest form of worship. Standards are the strategy of the strong. The quiet moments reveal your intent. but the storm reveals your standard. In solitude, it is easy to whisper promises to yourself. I will be disciplined. I will be strong. I will not fold. The air is still. The mind is clear. There is no conflict to contend with, but pressure, real pressure, uncovers the truth. It shows whether your foundation is made of stone or sand. Words are easy in peace. Convictions are tested in chaos. The man who builds himself only in moments of calm is unprepared for war. But the man who uses solitude to fortify his mind, to sharpen his values, to cement his standard, that man walks into hardship ready. Not because he is fearless, but because he has trained for the moment others dread. You must use solitude to build what pressure will soon reveal. Silence is your workshop. It is where you forge your values, refine your decisions, clarify your boundaries. The man who meditates on who he is and who he refuses to become is the man who gains armor before the arrows fly. But the man who waits for the battle to decide who he is has already lost. The fire does not create the sword. It reveals whether the sword was tempered correctly. If your identity is not fixed before the storm will fix it for you. Take time alone, uninterrupted, unfiltered, without distraction. Sit with your thoughts. Confront the uncomfortable. Write your code. Speak it aloud. Decide who you are. Decide what you will not do. Decide what you will always do. Because when the moment comes, when the test arrives, you will not have time to decide. You will only have time to act. Imagine a general who studies the terrain long before the army marches. He walks the land in silence. He maps every hill, every valley, every weakness. He imagines the attack before it arrives. And when the enemy comes, he is not surprised. He is not scrambling. He is ready, not because he is lucky, but because he was silent before he was strong. The same is true for you. Are you building in quiet, or are you waiting for chaos? Are you preparing, or are you gambling? Are you setting your standard in stillness, or are you hoping to remember it in crisis? Do not let the crowd define your code. Do not wait until the pressure mounts to find your strength. Set your standard in solitude. Carve it deep. Then let the furnace prove it, because hardship is not the time to question who you are. It is the time to demonstrate who you already decided to be. Let silence be your teacher. Let discipline be your friend. Let solitude become the sacred place where your identity is not invented, but uncovered. And when the storm comes, when the voices rise, when the world shakes, stand firm, not because you are unshaken, but because you were forged for this. Remember this: a man who prepares in quiet walks with power in chaos. A man who waits for chaos to shape him is not a man, he is a leaf in the wind. So choose the rock. Choose the silence. Choose to set your standard before the storm. And when the test comes, pass it without fear, because you are not reacting. You are revealing, and the world will see what was built when no one else was watching. The world bows to those who refuse to lower their standard in a world that rewards speed, popularity, and convenience. The man who chooses principle stands out like a torch in the dark. While others sprint for applause, chase trends, or trade values for likes, he walks another road, one paved with resolve, lined with integrity, and marked by quiet power. He is not the loudest, not the fastest, but he is unshakable. And that is power, the kind of power that does not need to be seen to be felt. The kind of power that holds its ground when the storm comes, when the pressure rises, when everyone else chooses the shortcut. Most people negotiate with their weakness. They make small deals with mediocrity. They whisper to themselves, just this once. They cross their own line and pretend they haven't. They lower their standard to feel good now and suffer the consequences later. It is the slow decay of self-respect, and most never see it happening. But the rare man who says, no, this is who I am, becomes a force. He draws strength not from approval, but from principle. He does not drift with convenience. He does not bend to gain favor. He stands. And in standing, he becomes unforgettable. History remembers such men, not because they were flawless, but because they were faithful. They did not sell their soul for temporary gain. They did not sacrifice truth for applause. They did not hide their values when it was costly to display them. Imagine a judge who refused bribes when it would have been easy to look the other way. Imagine a soldier who would not betray his oath even when threatened with exile. Imagine a builder who followed the blueprint to the letter, never cutting corners, even when no one would know. These men may not have lived in the spotlight, but their work outlived them. Their names are remembered, their legacy not loud but lasting. And you, what if you could become unforgettable, not by shouting, but by standing? What if your strength became your signature? What if your quiet consistency became your loudest testimony? The world will test your standard. It will offer you comfort in exchange for compromise. It will tempt you with shortcuts, soften you with praise, and pressure you to bend. But that is the moment when you must rise. Do not lower your standard to meet the world. Let the world rise to meet you. Because when you hold your line, others take notice. When you live by principle, you give others permission to do the same. And when you stand with unwavering conviction, you become the example the world desperately needs. In a culture of compromise, clarity is rare. In a sea of noise, silence built on strength is magnetic. You don't have to preach. Just live with such integrity that your life becomes the sermon. Be the judge who chooses justice over convenience. Be the soldier who stays true to his post. Be the builder who never betrays the blueprint. You will not be the loudest. You will not be the trendiest. But you will be remembered, not for the size of your following, but for the weight of your example. Stand and let the world adjust. That is power. That is legacy. That is what the world cannot ignore.